First, we import Axios, which is a popular JavaScript library used to make HTTP requests. It works both in the browser and in Node.js environments. Next, we create an instance of Axios using the create method. This allows us to configure a custom instance that we will use to intercept and log the network request timings. Here, we're adding a request interceptor. Axios interceptors give us the ability to run our code or modify requests and responses before they are handled by then or catch. Within the request interceptor, we attach a metadata object to the request configuration. We record the current time as the start time. This timestamp will be used later to calculate the request duration. We then return the modified config object so that the request can proceed with our added metadata. This is the error handling function for the request interceptor. If the request fails before it leaves the browser, this block executes. We simply reject the promise with the error, effectively passing it along so that it can be handled by the catch block of the HTTP request call. We have completed setting up the request interceptor. Now let's move on to the response interceptor. Here, we add a response interceptor. This function will be executed when the response from the server is received, before it's passed on to then or catch. Inside the response interceptor, we first calculate the duration of the request. We take the current time and subtract the start time that we stored in the request's metadata. After calculating the duration, we log a message to the console with the URL of the request and the time it took in milliseconds. Finally, we return the response so that it can be processed by the then block of our HTTP request call. Again, we have an error handling function, this time for the response interceptor. This block catches any error returned from the server. Similarly to the request interceptor error function, we pass the error along by rejecting the promise for consistent error handling. With that, we've set up both the request and response interceptors for our Axios instance. These interceptors will now monitor every request made with this particular instance. To demonstrate how you would use the customized Axios instance, here's an example GET request using the instance we configured. We call the GET method with the desired endpoint. Once the request is successful, the response would be available here. You can write your logic to handle the response as needed. If the request fails due to network errors or server errors, the catch block will be triggered, where you can handle the error accordingly. This is where the error handling takes place. It's crucial to properly manage the errors and provide feedback to the user or take appropriate actions in your application. With the error handling in place and our interceptors set up, our custom Axios instance is fully functional and ready to accurately log network request timing for diagnostic or performance monitoring purposes.